Dear listeners, every week we receive dozens of real stories, encounters that most people would never dare to talk about out loud. Stories that hide in the dark corners of memory, waiting to be told. What you're about to hear tonight comes from one of those emails. A real person, somewhere out there, finally decided to share what happened to them. And as always, we keep every single submission anonymous. Your name, your address, your personal details, they'll never be revealed. Here, we don't just tell ghost stories, we explore them. We step inside the fear, the confusion, the strange, quiet moments that make you question reality itself. Sometimes these stories feel so real, so close, that you start to wonder, did it really happen, or was it just their imagination? Without wasting any more time, let's begin tonight's story. A few nights ago, I got an email from a woman named Lauren who lives in Port Angeles, a small, windy town tucked between the mountains and the sea in Washington state. Lauren said what happened in her apartment wasn't a story, it was something she lived through. Here's her message, just as she wrote it. Hi. I'm not really sure who else to tell this to, but I've been listening to Midnight Fear for a while, and I thought maybe this was the right place. I live in a small apartment building on East Front Street, here in Port Angeles. My parents and I share Unit 3A. Right next to us is 3B, or was. The woman who lived in 3B, Mrs. Elkins, passed away last winter. She was in her 80s, quiet, polite, the kind of person who'd leave cookies at your door during Christmas. After she died, the room stayed empty. The landlord never got around to renting it out. Everything was normal, until one night I started noticing something. Around 1:42 a.m., almost every night, there's a sound from inside 3B. Not footsteps, not furniture moving. It's a voice, a woman's voice. Low, calm, almost whispering. It sounds like words at first, but when I listen closely, it's not really speech. It's more like the sound of someone breathing through leaves. I haven't told my parents. They already think I stay up too late scrolling through horror podcasts, and I know they'd just laugh it off. But I've lived here all my life. I know this building. I know its sounds. The pipes, the wind against the window, the heating unit that kicks on every 30 minutes. This isn't that. This is something else. The next night, I decided to check for myself. From my small balcony, I can see the window of 3B, across the narrow gap between our apartments. The curtains were drawn, of course, but I could still make out shapes when the porch light flickered on. Around 11:40 p.m., I started hearing it again. A faint rustle, like someone walking barefoot across old wooden floors. Not heavy steps, just slow, dragging ones. And underneath that sound, there was this soft, whispering noise, almost like leaves brushing against each other in the wind. My first thought was, maybe it's a cat, but that made no sense. There are no cats in the building. All the windows are sealed shut, and the doors have been locked for months. I went back to bed. My phone said 11:41. By 11:42, the sound had changed.
The next night, I decided to check for myself. From my small balcony, I can see the window of 3B across the narrow gap between our apartments. The curtains were drawn, of course, but when the porch light flickered on, I could still make out these vague shapes. Around 11:40 p.m., I started hearing it again. A faint rustle, like someone walking barefoot across old wooden floors. Not heavy steps, just slow, dragging ones. And under that sound, there was this soft whispering noise, almost like leaves brushing against each other in the wind. My first thought was, maybe it's a cat, but that didn't make any sense. There are no cats in the building. All the windows are sealed shut, and the doors have been locked for months. I went back to bed. My phone said 11:41. By 11:42, the sound had changed.
When I went to check the door to 3B, she said, there was this smell, like something old, stale, like a dead mouse or something, but stronger, almost wet, and no one's been inside for months. She added, windows locked, doors sealed, no reason it should smell like that. She tried to laugh it off, but she didn't. Her face said everything, and that smell, that same strange, damp smell, it started coming through my wall that night. I told Martha, the building manager, maybe some animal got in. She shook her head, slowly. No, honey. I opened the door this morning. The place is spotless. Nothing inside. Except she paused, thinking, like she wasn't sure she should even say it. In the corner by the window, she said, there was a small pile of dried leaves, just sitting there, like someone brought them in from outside. I didn't know what to say. The windows had been locked for months. There's no way wind or animals could have brought leaves inside. After that morning, I couldn't sleep properly for almost 2 weeks. Every creak in the walls, every sigh of wind outside, it all felt like that sound was still there, waiting. Then a few weeks later, someone new moved into 3B, a young couple. From that night on, I never heard the sound again. No whispers, no breathing, no smell. Everything just stopped. Sometimes I tell myself it must have been stress, or lack of sleep, or my imagination filling the silence. But every time I pass by that door, I still think about the leaves, how they ended up in a sealed apartment, and why, when the new tenants moved in, everything suddenly went quiet. Anyway, thank you for reading. Please don't use my full name if you share this. I just wanted to get it off my chest. I hope I never experience something like that again. Lauren, Port Angeles, Washington. Thanks again to Lauren from Port Angeles for sharing her story with us. Before we end tonight's episode, I want to talk about something we often forget to ask. Why do we fear? Why does darkness make our hearts beat faster? Why does silence, when it stretches too long, start to sound like breathing? Maybe it's something ancient, something that's been with us long before cities and lights and locked doors. Our ancestors slept out in the open, under skies with no stars they could truly call safe. In the dark, danger lived, predators moved, eyes watched. And so, over centuries, maybe millennia, we learned to listen for what we couldn't see. That instinct never left us. Even now, in our warm apartments, in our well-lit bedrooms, when we hear a sound we can't place, when the air feels just a little too still, our minds reach back to that ancient fear, the one that says, something's here, something's watching. And here's the strange thing. Fear fades the moment we see what's causing it. A shadow becomes a coat rack. A sound turns out to be a pipe. But until we know, until it's visible, the unknown is the thing that truly terrifies us. Maybe that's why stories like Lauren's stay with us. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's hiding in the dark. It's the darkness itself. You've been listening to Midnight Fear. I'm your host. Stay safe out there, and maybe tonight, leave one light on.